Breaking news. Russia's withdrawal from the grain deal has been strongly criticized by NATO, which has welcomed Turkey's efforts to resume negotiations. On Thursday, NATO officials criticized Russia for pulling out of a Black Sea grain deal this summer and applauded Turkey for trying to reinstate the agreement. "We strongly disagree with Russia's decision to abandon the Black Sea grain deal." NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg remarked positively on Turkey's efforts to revive the grain deal in testimony before the EU Parliament's Committee on Foreign Affairs. Of course, ending the war in Ukraine, which has been going on for over 18 months, is the best way to guarantee the safe and secure shipment of grain from that country, Stoltenberg added. Russia pulled out of an agreement on July 17 to resume grain exports from 3 Ukrainian Black Sea ports that had been halted after Moscow's special military operation began in February 2022. The agreement had been brokered by Turkey and the United Nations. Moscow has repeatedly complained that the West has not fulfilled its obligations under the deal, and that there are limitations on payments, logistics, and insurance for its own exports of food and fertilizer. When asked about the deal's revival by reporters after his meeting with Putin on Monday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan expressed confidence that a good result would be reached soon. The United States and other international actors have commended Turkey's efforts to both reach and maintain the grain deal. In a statement released on Wednesday, Russia said Turkey had agreed in principle to handle 1 million metric tons of grain that Russia plans to send to Africa at a discounted price with financial support from Qatar. After Moscow pulled out of an agreement with Kiev last July that had allowed Ukraine to ship grain safely from its Black Sea ports, the international price of food spiked as a result of Russia's invasion, prompting Moscow to propose the arrangement. Despite offering significantly less grain than Ukraine had been exporting, Russia has been courting African countries, some of which have been experiencing food shortages. All major points of agreement have been settled. According to Russian news agency Interfax, Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko told reporters, "We expect that in the near future we will enter into working contacts with all parties to work out all the technical aspects of the scheme for such deliveries." The role of Turkey in the subsequent export of the Russian grain was murky. Moscow says it pulled out of the previous deal because the West hasn't removed sanctions that have hampered its ability to export grain and fertilizer. However, Moscow also reportedly complained that not enough of the grain freed by the Black Sea deal was reaching the poorest countries. Ukraine and the West have accused Russia of using food as a weapon of war due to its repeated attacks on Ukrainian grain stores and maritime and riverine ports since it backed out of the deal. Russia's military operation in Ukraine is being described as special. Free grain for Russia. President Putin of Russia has pledged to donate 50,000 metric tons of grain to 6 African countries, including Zimbabwe, a major destination for South African exports. South Africa will ship less than 50,000 metric tons of wheat to Zimbabwe in 2020 and 2021. About 30% of South Africa's total wheat exports in 2022 went to Zimbabwe, where it was purchased in the quantity of just under 60,000 tons. At today's prices, the Russian shipment to Zimbabwe would be worth somewhere between $320 million and $500 million. Experts have advised South Africa to expand into countries with growing populations and foreign cash reserves despite the fact that about 40% of its agricultural exports remain within Africa.